Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And a lot of weird shit. Roll to seize!
Welcome to Roll to Seize. This is episode 56. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host and Warhammer enthusiast, Andrew Dickinger.
Me, person, things.
You are all of those things, especially the things.
Yes, person, maybe not so much.
Yes, we should maybe give an update of where we are. We have found our way out of the mystery closet, or whatever we called it.
Yes.
And we're still traversing the Black Library. We have not found a new place just yet. I know this renovation and move has taken a lot longer than we expected.
It did.
And probably longer than you expected.
When the walls literally change as you're painting them, it makes it quite difficult.
Yeah. And it turns out the Harlequins don't want to give us an immediate home just yet. I don't know why. We've tried to negotiate a few places, and they've been reluctant to give us a spot. Now, they do feel like they do owe us, or they don't want to let us loose. I don't know what the rationale is, but I think that they owe us is really what it is.
I mean, you're welcome to think that. I would never present that in front of them.
I mean, I wouldn't either.
But, you know, we've been just wandering for lengths of time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, time is very odd here.
How long?
But we did find that shuttle that got us out of the Black Library for a short period of time.
Was it a shuttle? It looked like a shuttle.
It looked like a shuttle.
Did it ever actually move? I'm pretty sure we just appeared at that place.
Yeah, we did. What was that place called again that we were just at?
Los Vegas.
Los Vegas.
Yes.
on old Terra.
Yes, but back in time.
But back in time when it was just a beautiful, bustling place. Not Las Vegas. That place is a wasteland.
Yeah.
But the rest of it was wonderful. We're kidding. We were in Las Vegas for LVO.
Yes.
And we had a pretty good time.
It was possibly the best competitive scene that I've seen at LVO.
Holy crap. It is like the caliber of competitive players that were there was incredible.
It was exceptional. Like almost every game that I went into, I was like, I'm not sure who's going to win this one. Like, and there were definitely games in the previous years, not to say that it was like run badly or something. It was just with the nature of the new edition with 8th and then previously with 7th, you majority of the time went into a game and we were like, this is going to be decided in one go.
Pretty much how it's going to go. Oh, you have an army that have invulnerable saves that are 2+.
That reroll.
I guess we aren't going to play a game. I'm just going to lose now at the beginning of the game. This is fun.
And then the first LVO with 8th edition was sort of just everybody kind of finding their feet.
Figuring it out. You know, I can't make Death Stars anymore, so I guess I'll just do this, right?
Yeah.
And that was tons of fun. And if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, or you're new and we're saying LVO in Las Vegas, we went to the Las Vegas Open, which we can say is the world's largest of all time,
yes,
Warhammer 40K tournament.
It is. It was close to, I think, the final tally was around 700 players this year. So
I think that's right, yeah.
I think it was around 700 players, but which is a lot.
A lot for one tournament, my goodness.
And, I mean, as we said, the caliber of player was just really up there, and I had a real challenging first day.
Oh, yeah.
It was hard. And then Jay had a bit of a challenging second day.
I did have a bit of a challenging second day. It was real fun.
It went flippy flop.
It went flippy floppy, pretty hardy floppy. That's a phrase?
That's a phrase that you just said there. It's now canon.
Oh, no.
Flippity floppity.
You know what? Just went hardy floppy, and then things just went all sidey whities.
So I guess we can just dive into it.
Yeah.
Talk about our games.
We're about to talk about our favorite segment, which is our Seasons of the Month, which will actually be probably one of the largest parts of this episode because we had so many games at the Las Vegas Open that you'd be surprised, but we actually screwed up a couple times.
Multiple times, even before going to the event.
Yeah, I know.
Turns out.
Which is incredible. Which is good for all of us.
Well, I guess since I,
you spoketh first, so you must seizeth first.
What's that phrase? Bury the hatchet or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Diving in. So,
And just to give you some context about the tournament, basically it's a 3-day tournament if you're one of the top players and get to the final 8, which are the final top 8 players.
2-day for us normies.
For us normie players. And we definitely did make top 8. No surprises there. But we did get 2 great days in of just 3 games a day. That's 6 games of Warhammering just back to back. It was tons of fun.
So my 3 games, I should preface with how did I screw up going before even being at the tournament?
Yes, I've got my head in my hands. I'm very interested about this.
So I brought, after all of the, bamboozling and trying different things out, realizing that trying to finish an orc army in a week was a ridiculous endeavor. That wasn't going to happen. I decided to bring my tried and true, old reliable Death Watch.
Good old Death Watch.
But I didn't bring a knight this time. Maybe should have. That's part of it.
Did knights do well at LVO? I can't remember. Did you run into any knights at LVO?
We're getting there.
All right.
We're getting there. Shut your face.
Okay.
And then I decided to bring, instead of the knight, I brought a second Death Watch detachment, a spearhead detachment that was 5 dreadnoughts, all Forge World dreadnoughts, which you may have heard from our previous episode of the lead up to LVO.
Yes, if you didn't hear from about our previous episode, maybe go back, take a listen. We talked about what our lists were.
Yes, and then the assassins. Well, it turns out in most of my games, the MVPs were the Eversur assassins.
And man, as we all know from recent news, Eversurs have only gotten worse. So they'll never show up in a game ever again.
If by worse you mean going from a 4 to possibly a 13, then yeah.
Oh my god. That's for another time, but my god, those things are going to be gross now.
But yeah, so running Death Watch and Assassins. Now, most of the time I was thinking that going into LVO, I was going to have a problem with bikes. I thought there was going to be Shining Spears actively, which, there was.
There was definitely plenty of Yannari Shining Spears just flying all over the place, but was there a particular bike that you were most worried about?
I mean, I wanted to murder Custodes bikes, and I thought I was going to run into more of them, but it turns out just like the prospect of them sneaking into the top 8 because people don't play against them enough, there was also just not enough players actually with them there.
Now, we should set the right expectations. Andrew's landlord is a giant golden warrior who rides around on a jet bike, so I mean, he's a little biased.
Anyways.
Sorry, we live in the Black Library. Our landlord is sometimes a giant golden warrior who rides around on a bike. We don't know where he goes, but Andrew has claimed to have seen him.
So I kitted this army to fight those bikes and, Inari bikes, the Shining Spears, and didn't think I was going to be running into at least Triple Knight as often as I did, which was... Knights,
they're popular these days?
So it turns out day 1, this is the other sad part of me being a Death Watch player and wanting to play Xenos. So day 1, not only did I not play Xenos at all,
which is definitely not what Death Watch are for.
But then I also, losing 8 of my last cannons, only faced Knights day 1.
Yeah.
Which was real rough.
So you'd say kind of your pre-tournament C's was not bringing enough last cannons?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's such an easy adjustment, too, and it's what my army normally is with the Dreadnoughts in there, because I have 2 Chaplain Dreads, the 2 Contemptors, and then the Leviathan, which the Leviathan's very good. I mean, it's just a very good unit. It's well-costed. It takes care of a lot of things. And
yeah, the Butcher Cannons are pretty nice.
Not Butcher Cannons. That's the Chaos version, Jay.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry for this.
Storm Cannon Arrays,
this heresy.
Jay. Storm Cannon Arrays, yeah. The 20-shot Storm Cannon Arrays.
See, this is how you weed out cultists. They're like, what do you think of these guns? Oh, the Butcher Cannons? Get him!
Yes.
Clearly.
I'm going to call the Golden Man.
No, don't do that. I still don't believe he exists.
Yeah, until I call him.
Oh.
But yeah, so the Leviathan is very good. One game, it got punked real quickly, which was funny. But the Contemptors normally have quad last cannon as I run them, and both of my Chaplain Dreadnoughts also have a twin last cannon on them. And my normal play against a Knight player is to deep strike the 2 last cannon Contemptor Dreads and the Leviathan Dread, and then have the 2 Chappies on the board and just infantry, and literally give the Knight player no targets for an entire turn. Because he can't target the Chappies because they're characters, 9 wound characters, and all the other Dreads are deep striking. So he has no targets for like a Castellan or anything like that for the first turn, which is a big deal.
And we should give everybody an idea of kind of what the recaps of these games is going to look like. We're not going to recap every game in depth.
No.
We're just mostly going to talk about the games that we had seizes for.
A highlight
Yeah.
for each game, essentially. A summary, a cliff notes, if you would.
Otherwise, we'd be here forever.
So game 1 against Triple Knight, it was, I believe game 1 was against a Warden, which is the Gatling Knight, a Gallant, and a Castellan.
Oh.
Of course.
Ah.
And, I had the plan going in. It was game 1, maybe jitters or something like that. But the plan was, even though I don't have all my last cannon dreads, I should still deep strike the shooty dreads so that he can't shoot them turn 1, and then I have a better chance of killing his knights. So I didn't do that.
Oh, good.
So that's siege number 2 after list building is having the plan, knowing the plan, and then not doing the plan.
That's always important.
It was real smart. It was still a pretty close game, but he had his Castellan survived on a dream for 2 turns straight. It was on 1 wound. And I would do 3 damage to it, and it would make 6 up, feel no pains. Ugh. And then the next turn did the same thing, and I was just like, my word. If I had more last cannons, this wouldn't be a problem right now.
God damn it, who left all my last cannons at home?
So that was game 1. It essentially went that way, and it was sort of the warm-up game for LVO. But, going into game 1 with a loss is kind of sad, because then it just, from off the bat, it's nice because you can essentially just it's a weird thing to say, but sort of enjoy the tournament more because you don't have the ongoing pressure of getting to the top tables.
Yeah, and it's not to say that if you're winning, you're not enjoying the tournament, but it's a different type of enjoyment.
It's very stressful being a winning. If you go into day 2 and you have 3 top scoring wins day 1, there's a lot of pressure on you. And especially with the group of friends and players that we have in our community, which one of them is the person who won LVO. There's that added pressure of them knowing you and being like, oh, how well just scored day 1.
How'd you do on day 1?
And yeah, so, that was a little sad for losing the first game and then essentially being out of the running immediately. And then the second game, I was against a single Gallant and then yet again another Knight, which was just my word. But I was actually against Foot Custodes. And which was surprising. Again, I didn't go against Bike Custodes, which was just my word.
Rubbing the salt in the wound.
It's just dig the knife in and twist a little more, and then some salt in there. Let's pour some alcohol on it.
But where are all your bikes? No, these guys are on foot.
He did have 2 shield captains. We actually ran into an interesting dilemma with regards to ITC objectives, which is for the secondary objective Kingslayer. I didn't know this, but the Custodes have a stratagem that allows them to pass their warlord onto another character in the Custodes army.
So when you took the secondary for Kingslayer, basically passed it to somebody else after they died.
And we didn't. Yeah, so I put it on his warlord to get the full points, and I killed his warlord. But then he used the stratagem to pass it to his other shield captain. And at that point, we were like, how does that work? Because the warlord's not technically dead.
When the other guy turned out to be the warlord, did he take off his helmet and started twirling a mustache?
Surprise! It was me all along.
It was me all along.
But yeah, we ended up just sort of house ruling it with us there at the table. We had a good discussion about it. He was a great player, and we were having a fun time. And we just ended up house ruling it that if I killed him as well, then it would give me the full points. But it was still a good tactic to essentially delay me points and then pass warlord on.
Yeah. I assume that's probably what that stratagem is there for. It's a stratagem, right?
It's a stratagem, yes. I can't remember the name of it, but something about many heroes.
I'm looking it up right here. No, it just says mwah ha 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 twirls mustache. Interesting.
But then so I won that game. It was kind of a situation of with the nature of the board and the fact that it was a long ways deployment and I had shoot.
It was hammer and anvil?
It was hammer and anvil.
Ooh.
And I had a lot of shooting and he did not. So he had to get to me type of situation. It was just not the best deployment method for an army like his. That's a foot slogging Custodes army. But then game 3, yet again.
Wait a second. Let me guess. You played Black Templars.
No.
Oh. Knights?
But there was a Black Templar army that we were looking out for.
Yeah, I know.
But no, I went against Triple Knight yet again. My word. It was
same makeup too? Was it like a Warden, a Gallant, and a Castellan?
No, this was 2 Gallants and a Castellan, and then the full Loyal 42 or Loyal 32, sorry, with Guardsmen and the Hydra tank from the new Vigilist detachment.
Was it the Wyvern?
The Wyvern, sorry.
That
The
they
Wyvern.
that
Not
they can
the Hydra,
either
yeah, the Wyvern.
that can shoot twice, or it can like hit something in half its speed.
It have its
something?
move in advance, yes. And it doesn't even need to wound anything. It just does that.
Just taps you. It shoots you with a bunch of Elmer's glue, right? Just glues you right. Not like super glue, but just Elmer's glue. Enough to annoy you.
No, it's got to have the tack, but not as much of the stick.
Yeah.
It's got to be just cumbersome.
It's really to just break your morale and be like, this is war. Come on, man.
How do I get this out of this clothes? I mean, it's just like the super glue, you just, you're like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. You throw the clothes away. But Elmer's glue, like, there's a chance, and you're just like, man.
Jeez.
But yeah, so I went against that, and the game was going okay for a while. I was definitely getting points, and another close scoring game, but at the end of it, I just didn't have enough firepower to deal with 3 knights. And once all my reserves were in, at that point, there was just too much for me to handle, so I ended up losing that game. So going day 1, 2 losses and 1 win was real rough. And
Jeez.
Going against Triple Knight twice when I took out most of the tools to deal with Triple Knight.
Not fun?
It was real hard. I mean, like, the game, it's a game of chance, and it's a dice game, and the dice gods are fickle.
Yeah.
And they gave me clear warnings that I ignored.
Yeah.
And then, I paid for it. So that was that.
But you did get to kill a bunch of Custodes on foot.
I did, which was a strange feeling.
You're like, these are not the Custodes I'm prepared for, but I'm okay with killing
I'm
them.
going to murder them all the same.
Okay.
But then the Death Watch, of course, are just like, they just put on... See, this is what I feel like, because I played 3 Loyalist armies day 1, I feel like my Death Watch literally just have a visor that they pull down, and it just makes things look like Xenos.
They're like, sir, I'm pretty sure that knight is an Imperium knight. They're like, no, it must clearly be a Bio-Titan.
That is definitely a Scythyra. No, it's definitely a Knight Gallant. It's screaming things in the High Gothic. Nope, it's definitely a Hierodule.
I assume
it's spitting acid.
You fired the Watchmaster after day 1, and they went, we're going after some different shit, guys. You have clearly put us in the wrong system.
Well, I mean, the Watchmaster wasn't there, and I think that's the problem.
That's probably what it was.
You had 2 captains who didn't clearly make the right decision.
Oh, man. There's a great Home Alone adventure that Watchmaster had, right? He woke up and he was like, huh? Hello? They left without me. I'm home alone? Oh, baby, I'm going to eat all the ice cream and pizza I want.
And then he sees the command console that they left without them, and he just says, there's like 2 buttons, button for Xenos, a button to throw against Knights, and he's just like, I'm going to do it. He just pushes the Knight button.
Oh, man, and then like 2 gene stealers tried to break into his watchtower and take him down. Oh, I want to see Home Alone as a Watchmaster.
Oh, my God.
So that was your day 1.
That was day 1.
So let me recount my day 1, and then we'll go on to your mysterious, potentially exciting day 2.
Maybe Xenos involved.
Ooh, possibly. So my day 1, I brought the list that we had talked about in the last episode, but I'll quickly recap. It's my clown council, as I've been calling it. More council than clown.
There's definitely only 3 clowns in that
There
list.
are 4 clowns.
4 clowns, sorry. Individual
Don't forget
clowns.
Jared.
Jared is your warlord?
Yeah, of course. Now, don't tell Jared that Harlequin who wanders around these halls. But basically my list, I call it the Clown Council because the council part is a full, what I call Seer Council, or what it used to be called, but it is 10 Warlock Skyrunners, all with singing spears. It's basically a Death Star in 8th edition, as close as you can probably get one. When you power it up with all the psychic powers, minuses to hit, 3 up invul, 5 up feel no pain, it's very, very, very hard to kill.
Yes, and I believe some Dire Avengers and some Wave Serpents.
Yep, had a bunch of Dire Avengers, 2 battalions worth of them, 3 in each, in 3 Wave Serpents, plus a Farseer and a Warlock for extra psychic powers, and then I had, for my clowns, I had a single small detachment of elites. It was a Troopmaster, Jared, of course, leading by 2 Death Jesters and a Solitaire. The Solitaire being the real key piece of that whole stew, although the Death Jester did some pretty cool stuff throughout the tournament that I was surprised about. But I'll give a quick recap of what my army faced on day 1. My first game was against Demons. It went really well. I ended up winning the game. There was like 20 Plague Marines. There was a bunch of Bloodletter Bombs, a bunch of Demon Princes like jumping up, trying to chop things down. One of the demon princes was Corn with a giant corn axe. Basically...
Skull Reaver.
Skull Reaver.
Yeah.
I basically won the game by kind of screening out with my Wave Serpents, which was the tactic I would employ, where I screen out the bloodletters, so all they can do is come in and charge Wave Serpents. There's nobody inside it. Once they are on the ground and they kill Wave Serpent, or they don't kill Wave Serpent, because they're kind of hard to kill even for bloodletter bombs.
Yeah.
All my Dire Avengers are just sitting in the middle waiting, and then they just turn and just blow all the bloodletters off the board, because there is a whole bunch of them. There's 30 of them.
Yep.
6 units of 5 each. Plus, my Seer Council has 40 shuriken shots apiece, just jumping around the table, blowing stuff up. So I won that first game. It went really well. Had a great opponent. But it was basically, it went how I was hoping it would go. Now, my second game, I played against Ultramarines. That was really interesting. It was an Ultramarine player. He was really technical, really smart with his play. He had a unique list. He had a bunch of Dreadnoughts. He actually had 2 Redemptors, I think 2 Contemptors. They're the ones that have like the double. I think he actually had the double last cannon.
He did.
Guys that you were thinking of.
Well, I had one double dual last cannon
Right.
Contemptor.
But he had 2, and he had a Leviathan as well.
He did.
With G-Man, Mr. Rabaut Guillaumin, right?
Yes.
That's how you say it?
Sure.
Yes.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. And basically, the game went well. I did end up winning that game. I felt bad because he actually, he had one long charge he tried to make with G-Man. He failed it, but then he had like a 4-inch charge to make with him, and he rolled a 3, and then re-rolled the 1 into another 1. And failed a 4-inch
It's
charge.
a dice game.
It is sometimes.
It can happen.
And my Seer Council flew up and killed G-Man twice, because he did get back up, and then he was killed promptly right afterwards. But yeah, basically, with the terrain I had, with my Seer Council, I kept popping out, killing a Dreadnought, fire and fade, because you can fire and fade the whole unit back behind a building, and then I just did that a bunch of times, and his Dreadnoughts just couldn't get around the building enough to shoot everything, and ended up slowly taking apart the army. So that was my second game. Now, my third game of the day. I'm on 2 wins. Feeling pretty good going into the final round, and I go up against a interesting list. It was an Adeptus Mechanicus mixed with, you'd be surprised, a Castellan. Because Castellans are...
Good?
Good. They're pretty good. Basically, he went first. He wasn't able to do much in his first turn. He damaged the crap out of some of my Wave Serpents that were behind a building with the lava cannon thing that the Castellan
Volcano
has.
cannon. Or it's a sub-version of the volcano cannon.
Yeah, and I got lucky because he actually split his shots between the different Wave Serpents instead of focusing down one, and they actually all survived. But what he did manage to kill, which was pretty key, he shot one little missile with that stratagem that lets you hit a character.
A Shieldbreaker missile?
Yep, Shieldbreaker missile.
Oathbreaker guidance system?
No invulnerable saves, and he targeted my Solitaire. And hit the Solitaire, wounded the Solitaire, rolled a d6, got a 5. That's
all he needs.
5 for 5 wounds on a Solitaire. And the Solitaire was like, I'm ready to go, boss! And then just immediately exploded.
Just the JDAM just comes, I'm ready to go, and then it just zooms out like 100 yards, and you just see the explosion in the distance, and that's formerly where there was a Solitaire.
What's even funnier about, though, is because all the characters are in a tightly packed ball, because I usually put them in the middle, wrapped around all my Seer Council, so you can't shoot them. The Seer Council is super durable. So it's really funny to think that it was like, basically the missile didn't explode, it just crushed him. Like, no shield, like, just completely flattened him.
Unlike what you normally do, which you use the, if you know military jargon at all, there's a type of round. It's not it's necessarily a shape charge, but it fires a very focused shot, and that's what it did, is it just literally just punched a hole straight through the floor, and there was a gap that formerly was taken up by a Solitaire.
And Jared fell to his knees. No! So basically that was the beginning of the game. I was like, ooh, that's not very good. But then I had a couple good turns. The game looked like it was going my way. He had this really interesting unit, and you might know what these are, but I think they're Forge World Adeptus Mechanicus. He had like 20 of these guys with, I think they had shields and then these like staffs.
They're called Secutari Hoplites. They're essentially the Secutari are groups of Forge World Skitari that defend Titans.
Yeah.
And so these guys are basically Spartans.
Pretty much. And he had like 20 of them, and they were just close enough that I was able to fly my Seer Council out turn 1, quicken them to get them right up next to them, and then just fully unload onto them. They were jinxed, they were doomed, pretty much wiped them out completely, fire and faded back behind a building, and the Seer Council was protected, and I was feeling pretty good about that. and he was not super excited about that, but he still had a bunch of stuff on the table. He had 2 Helverins, he had a Castellan, and he had his the Cataphren, not the Cataphren destroyers. He had the Castellan robots.
Yeah.
The 4 of them, or 6 of them, I think. And Call. Belisarius Call.
Calisarius Ball?
Ballest of the balls. We'll get to him soon. So
He does fun stuff.
He does fun stuff in this story. Not fun for me. But basically, his turn rolls around, and I have enough minuses from like Conceal on my Seer Council. They're Latok, more than 12 inches away, so it's another -1, so they're -2. And then lightning fast reactions, which you can throw on them. It means they're -3, which guess what? Those robots can't actually shoot them.
Nope, makes them a
7.
7.
7+ ballistic skill. That really bummed him out because he thought he was going to be able to shoot them, but I lightning fast reaction and he actually couldn't shoot them. So his Castellan like fired a couple things, and I had like a pretty good plan in place. I was like, the Castellan's close enough where I can move my guys up and quicken them and kill the Castellan, but I've also got these Castellan robots just sitting out there. Now, those Castellan robots put out quite a few shots, and if they get their Wrath of Mars stratagem off, even if they're just hitting on 6s, with the Ballest of the Ball, Belisarius Call, being right next to them, they can re-roll everything to get more 6s and do mortal wounds.
Wait, but I don't understand. His robots can't shoot you.
Yeah.
So why would you worry about them?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. You know what's also just as interesting is that by the time this turn rolled around, he had spent all of his CP that he had.
So he couldn't even Wrath of Mars.
He couldn't even Wrath of Mars.
So I'm confused.
So
you went for the Castellan, right?
Well, of course, because like a practice general would go like, well, the Castellan is there, and if you can kill a Castellan, my God, you kill a Castellan, right? So I went for the Castellan robots. Because I was like, look, they got 1,000,000 shots. I got 1,000,000 dudes that pop out of these wave serpents like a pinata, and I don't want them just blowing them all away. I got this game. I might as well go for the Castellan robots. But here's my plan. I fly my Seer Council up. I shoot the Castellan robots, and I'm right next to Belisarius Call, Ballest of the Ball, and I go in and I tie him up in close combat.
Sure.
So then if my guys are wrapped around Belisarius, he can't escape, his Castellan can't shoot at my guys, even with all their minuses, and then they just leave combat, and they shoot the Castellan the next turn. No problem, man. So this is how it went. My guys flew up. They shot the crap out of the Castellan robots. That did work. Now, he did like roll an amazing bunch of invulnerable saves, and he actually took some saves on his invulnerables when he didn't need to, just so that he could bounce
Mortal
shots
wounds back. Yep.
And his mortal wounds like killed 2 guys. Like that's 3 wounds apiece. And I had like 5 up, feel no pain. Sorry, we keep saying feel no pain. 5 up, like kind of like disgustingly resilient.
Yeah.
They ignore wounds on a 5+.
Secondary saves, essentially.
And but I did kill all of them. I went up, wrapped Belisarius Call. The plan was in motion. I swung in close combat on him. Didn't really matter. The whole point was just to tie him up so I wouldn't get shot by Helverins in a night.
Yeah, they don't have a great chance of killing him in combat.
No, I mean, I did get him down to like 3, I think, because like they have D3 damage weapons. So if he fails a couple of his saves, which he has 2 ups.
Yeah.
So like, if he fails a couple, which I think he failed 1 or 2, I got him down to like 2 or 3 wounds. Doesn't matter, because Belisarius Call can regen like 2d3 every turn, apparently. He does it at the top of the turn and then the bottom of the movement phase.
Yep.
The guy is impossible to kill. But basically, this is what happened next. And this is where things went a little sideways.
Sounds like he had some fun.
Yes. Belisarius Call, the ballest of balls, said, "Nay to you, Seer Councils. See this? This crazy-ass axe or whatever the hell he has?"
Omniscient axe.
Omniscient axe. Said, "I doth not believe in your witch bullshit. You die now. You die so very much." And I said, "What?" And then over the next 2 combat phases, because it was my combat phase, and then when his turn, his combat phase, through some poor morale and some great rolling and some bad saves on my part, I lost 5 of my Seer Council. So before I went after the Castellan robots, they were at a nice big meaty 10. By the end of the next time it came back around to my turn, I had 3 left. That's right, 3. 3 from 10. 3 Seer Council dudes do not kill a Castellan, fun fact.
I want to point out that
that there was a mistake somewhere along the way?
This is an edge case scenario. The real C's here was not going after the Castellan when you could.
Yeah, the C's is not... We never want to blame things on dice.
Call is okay in combat. He is not kill 5 Seer Council.
Nobody
good.
go running out to the stores now and be like, what? Did I miss something?
Should I just charge him to the front line?
Is there some kind of like crazy stratagem that I didn't know that he does 1 billion damage?
It is a dice game.
Yep.
He rolled hot. Jay did not. And that is the story.
That is the story. But the real thing here is, if you can kill a Castellan, kill the Castellan. Because then, what happened over the next several turns, my council is basically dead. But I've got, some wave serpents. I was trying to take objectives. But turns out, a Castellan, unfettered by wounds and damage, can just kill an entire army itself. Its plasma cannons and laser lava cannons, like even its shoulder cannons, can kill a whole bunch of infantry if you don't have a lot of infantry. I mean, I only have small 5-man units of Dire Avengers. He was just like, boom, boom, boom. The Helverins were going nuts. They were killing infantry.
I mean, you also forgot that it just, it randomly also has 4 melta-guns on it. So,
yeah, it is so, and it runs up and can charge and smash things in close combat. I mean, if you don't have like a crazy, it's good enough. It can leave combat. It can charge again. It was just, it is a character, so it can heroically intervene if you don't move far away from it, which I forgot about. Yeah, so I lost that game, and should have gone for the Castellan. So that was the end of my day 1. I was on 2 wins, 1 loss. I was pretty bummed because I could have had that win and had 3-0 for day 1, but I was like, you know what?
Here's the thing.
I totally screwed up, and never mess with the balls to the balls,
Here's
friends.
the thing, though. Here's the thing. It was meant to be because we bookended day 1, where I, game 1... had the plan, then didn't do the plan,
Nice.
and then you, game 3, had the plan, and then didn't do the plan.
Yeah.
So I just passed it on to you.
Yeah.
And just made you forget about what was the good idea.
Listen, everybody, if there's a unit that just can't shoot you, kill them first, right? I mean, they're an immediate threat. So, yeah, mistakes were made. So that was my day 1 and my big C's from that day. Andrew, let's go into day 2 and talk about your games.
All right, so after some soul searching and some alcohol and a good meal, I came in refreshed for game 2, vowing that if I played Knights again, that there would be fires, perhaps, possibly anger involved. But thankfully, day 2 had no Knights on the table.
What?
Apparently, I got it all out of the system.
Well, what happened is you came back home in time, and the Watchmaster was there, and you guys realized that you really did love each other, and there was a whole family bonding thing. And then he was like, you know what? I'm going to go with you guys next time tomorrow. And you know what? No more fucking Knights.
No, it definitely wasn't that. So you did the PG version. The actual version, it was just literally 3 smash cuts. It's the smash cut of the door opening behind the Watchmaster. He looks back. The battalion is really beat to hell. It looks back at the Watchmaster, who has a shocked face, and then the last shot is the Watchmaster ejected out of the port, just flying into space.
And then a new Watchmaster was promoted. So let's hear about them games, those non-night games.
So game 1 on day 2 was against, ironically, your first game on day 1, which was against Demons / Chaos Space Marines of the Nurgle variety.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting game for one reason, because he had 2 Hellforged Leviathans that actually had the Butcher Cannons.
Oh! Heresy.
So yeah, he had 2 Hellforged Leviathans that had the dual Butcher Cannon arrays, which...
So it was Leviathan on Leviathan action.
Yeah, but I mean, I had the superior
Well, you had the better guns, right? The Stormfire...
Storm Cannon arrays, Jay.
I was testing you. I knew what the answers were. I'm not a heretic.
Calling the golden guy.
Listen, you know I love corn. What do you know? Come on. We all know this.
So it was an interesting board that had one of the new LVO ruins that has the enough space for a knight to pass through it in one direction. I don't know if you played with those at all, but it's like a very big building that has actually enough of an open wall that a knight can pass through.
Yeah, I did. I didn't play on any of those tables, but I did see what that looked like.
So it was a Dawn of War deployment. So we were across from each other, and the opening was actually long ways, so that there was basically a wall on either side of us with a door in the bottom. So neither of our Leviathans could actually pass through from our side. We had to go through the middle. So
they had like a nice high noon, like walking to the one side of the building.
Well, okay, so he was a great opponent. He made some key mistakes. For one thing, he put one of his Leviathans far to one flank and put it basically in a ruin, which allowed me to deep strike a Eversur outside of his line of sight and charge through the ruin and catch it for one combat.
Now, how difficult is that charge for that Eversur?
Well, I mean, easy peasy, a lemon, a squeezy.
3 Dick Seasies? Wait a second.
Wait, what?
That didn't sound very good. I mean, 3d6.
3d6s, Jay. Keep it in the pants. 3d6 charge where it's not like pick the two highest and go. It's 3d6 all added together. So it's a pretty good, easy 9-inch charge.
Yep.
Which I definitely failed in multiple games.
Hey, it's what happens to bloodletter bombs. It happens to anything that can roll 3d6.
It's a sad thing when you roll 3-1-1 and then you're like, well, I need a high roll on this reroll or I don't make it, and then you roll like a 2, and you're like, well, okay. But yeah, so he made the mistake with that Leviathan. What he really should have done, and we had a great game, so we did a little bit of math hammering afterwards of how it would have been more of a problem on my end, is if he had just placed both Leviathans on either side of that big ruin, they would have essentially had cover of the entire board. And if he had done that, then I would have been in a bit of a pickle, but he didn't, and it allowed me to hard focus to one side, kill a Leviathan, and sort of just run over the other side. So that was game 1. Then game 2, so I won that game. Off to a good start.
Yeah!
Game 2, I was against an orc player. So my first Xenos, big thumbs up.
The Death Watch were just chomping at the bit.
I was raring to go. Now, I've actually had a pretty good track record with the new orcs with my Death Watch. Turns out, lots of flat AP -1 with 2+ poison rerolling 1s is
pretty good against them t-shirts?
They're pretty good against them 6-up saves on orcs. Do a good job.
Now, do Death Watch have any key stratagems they can use against orcs that might help them when they're getting charged by a whole bunch of boys?
Okay, so they have a stratagem that's specifically against orcs that for every orc that you kill in Overwatch, it reduces their charge distance by 1 inch per orc.
Huh.
Turns out that didn't actually matter this game.
Oh, okay. It's still disgusting.
It's still very good, and the average 10-man intercessor unit that I have will kill 4 orcs in Overwatch when they're near a captain, which means that it's basically an impossible charge.
I mean,
orcs.
they'll get a +1 if they're evil sons, but who cares? It's like an 11-inch charge or something like that.
It's, well...
No. Yeah, no, it'll be 12. It'll be exactly 12.
It'll be a 12-inch charge.
Yikes.
It's a box scars or nothing, essentially.
And that's only if they're evil sons. Otherwise, no chance.
No. So he was playing mainly Goths, so he had the nasty Goth boys and everything like that. He had also some bad moons, and he had the Luda bomb, which...
If you don't know what that is, it's 25 orc Ludas that kill almost anything, except for like a knight. But otherwise, they kill pretty much anything.
They've been mobbed up, a 15-man unit, a 10-man unit. If it's maxed out, some people do a little bit less here and there, but he had the full shebang. He also had something that I have not played against yet, or had not played against yet in the new Orc Codex. I've played against them previously in the Index, which is Storm Boys. He had a full unit of 30 Storm Boys. So
neat.
That was interesting to go against. Now, I tabled the poor lad. He was a great player. He's actually a buddy of Jeff in Control, which was really cool. He's part of the San Francisco crew, so it was cool to play from another guy from that crew.
Oh, nice.
And we had a great game. There was a lot of laughs involved. There was the one major mistake he made was not putting his Storm Boy units close enough to Gazcol so that he could advance and charge them after we had spent the entire beginning of the turn saying you need to put them close enough to Gazcol so that they can advance and charge them. And then he didn't do it. And I was like, I'm sorry, this is LVO. I can't let you take that back. And so they were stuck there. And he didn't tie up my entire castle, and that was basically the beginning of the end.
Yikes.
Because it allowed me in one turn to wipe out all of his Ludas and all of his Storm Boys in one go.
Ooh.
And, that was rough.
Yowzers.
That was a rough game. But he was a great sport. He kept a positive attitude the whole time. He never lost the smile, which is that's always a bonus when you're having a rough go.
And at any tournament, and especially the biggest tournament in the world at LVO, you can always feel that tournament pressure to just be on and just be always just highly focused and not as jovial and friendly, but it's great when people can really just find a balance between both the competitive and the friendliness of this community, which is great. And really respect that.
I actually missaid before. I didn't table him entirely. He had I think he had 2 characters left at the end there that I couldn't get to, but basically everything else was
How
dead.
dare you besmirch his name?
It's a big deal. So I did not table him. That was incorrect. And then so I won that game 2-0 on day 2. Not a bad go of it.
That's not bad.
After day 1. It was a rough time, so we're doing
all right. You're on top of a rainbow, kicking clouds and everything.
And I got to actually play a Xenos army. It took 4 games for me to finally get there, but
Yeah.
I'm actually playing
You
Xenos.
killed your way through an entire Imperium sector to get to those damn Xenos.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. They all look like Xenos to me.
Oh, boy. You sure you're not Chaos?
I mean, one was sort of chaosy and maybe a little gross, but I'm sure they were just Tyranids in the end.
Right.
So then my last game, I end up going against Tau, and this was actually a more unconventional Tau list that actually had Pathfinders, and which I haven't seen in a long time. He had 2 of the fortifications that have the supremacy railguns on it, which I never played
the
against.
floaty ones?
The floaty ones.
It's, I think, the Tide Wall.
It's a Tidewall Rampart is sort of like the entire extent. I can't remember what that piece is called.
Oh, just the single piece that's on the end?
Yeah, just the one that has, because there's the drone port, which has the 4 drone ports on the side, and then there's the one that has the supremacy railgun, which I can't remember what it's called.
Gotcha.
But he had 2 of those, and his Pathfinders were in there. Now, I made a critical error, and I misread his list, because I'm not used to the Battlescribe format, and I thought he just had units of 7 Pathfinders in those, but it was actually units of 10, which with 3... of the rail rifles, and then 7 guys with Markolites. And we got into a bit of an argument, and it was entirely my fault because I misread his list, and he was firing the Markolites in addition to the rail rifles. I was like, you only have 7 guys in there. He was like, I totally don't.
I do not, sir.
And he was definitely correct. So going against that, he had a Tau detachment, of course, with, lots of fire warriors, and, he ironically had Anva, which,
Ooh.
Man after my own heart. He had Anva.
Good
in
old
there.
Anva.
But then, of course, a Cadre Fire Blade to give them the extra shots, plus Dark Shadow, or...
Dark Shadow?
Not Dark Shadow.
Dark Shadow's the classic 70s TV show and movie with Johnny Depp?
No.
That data slate we all remember from thousands of years ago.
Dark Strider.
Dark Strider.
Yeah, I mixed Dark Strider and Shadow Sun into one entity.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, wow. That'd be a very powerful character.
No, he had Dark Strider so that his units could fall back and still shoot, and he actually had 3 railgun broadsides, or heavy rail rifle broadsides.
Oh, cool.
So this was like and then I forgot to mention, this was a man after my own heart, because he had 3 units of sniper drones.
Man, sniper drones, they can be really mean when you give them that +1 to wound with the Tau stratagem.
And then you also do the through Unity Devastation on a single thing, and then those 5s are not only -1, but they also inflict a
do
bonus mortal wound.
Oh boy, that can get really gross.
Yeah, so this was the game that my Leviathan got gibbed hilariously. So it came in, Storm Cannon arrayed a lot of things.
Nice.
My Death
That
Watch,
is the proper verb.
Yes, my Death Watch killed a lot of stuff. He was shooting his rail rifles, his heavy rail rifles from his broadsides, mainly at my dreadnoughts in the back to some effect. But really, like, the thing that actually was sort of his MVP in the beginning, he had 1 single ghost kill that was right next to my lines.
Ooh.
And I failed like a 6-inch rerollable charge with one of my Chappie Dreads, who definitely would have killed it. And then he immediately evaporated that dread.
Holy crap.
He rolled like 5 gun shots, hit with all of them, wounded with all of them. And I was like, I won't survive this. And it turns out he didn't. So that was a bonanza that was happening on my right flank. But then once I went into his lines, I was like, oh yeah, I got the Leviathan Dreadnought there. It's going to do great. Turns out when you roll hot with rail rifles from Pathfinders that all have ridiculous AP and D3 damage each, and the rapid fire kills the Leviathan real quick when you don't make 4+ invul saves.
Wow, the Pathfinders gunned down the Leviathan?
I don't think they finished it, but they took like 12 of its 14 wounds away.
Holy crap.
Just like from D3s, like I think he wounded it like 8 times with rail rifles, and I only made 2 of the 4+ invul saves, and he rolled hot on those D3, and I was like, it's dead now, and that's real sad, and wow.
Jeez.
Okay, that just happened.
One of those Pathfinders is getting promoted to something. Jeez.
That's all of them.
He's joining the 8. He's going to be the 9 of the new Farsight group.
That's a bit extreme, but
Yeah, I mean, dude, took down a Leviathan. What are you talking about? That one guy, right? Not all of them?
But yeah, so in the end, I did end up winning, but that was definitely other than the night games in day 1, day 2, that was the biggest bloodbath game. I mean, we had so few units left on either side that it was just like, I think he had like a few sniper drones and maybe some Pathfinders, and I had like an assassin and like some random intercessors and maybe 1 or 2 dreads, and that was it. Like,
Jeez.
it was a slaughter. But I after the big mistake with the Leviathan going bye-bye and messing up with the Ghost Keel and not devoting enough to it, I pulled back and played the objective and ended up scoring just enough to win. So that was the end of my tournament. So I actually went out with a bang and ended up finishing 4-2, which was very surprising.
Which is incredible.
Especially after day one, I was like, man, I'm going to be like 2-4 this tournament. This is really rough. Shit. Okay.
Then you turn it around.
Turned it around, though, and I got to finally play... Well, no, I was actually playing Xenos the whole time, but then, like, 2 real Xenos, because I didn't have to use the visors, so, like, it worked out.
Yeah. You were finally fighting Xenos.
And ironically, in the Tau game as well, so Deathwatch stratagem against Tau is that they have a 1-point stratagem, or 2 points, I think it's 1 point, to remove all Markolites from a unit.
So good.
Which I also forgot to use, so then
nice.
I can use that as well.
So you never used any of your Xenos-specific stratagems?
Nope.
The best Deathwatch team, killing tons of Imperium and never using their stratagems against Xenos.
I mean, it's my word over yours, and we definitely didn't kill any Imperium. It's just Xenos.
They were clearly all Tyranids dressed in Imperium bodies.
That's right.
Moving around, like puppeting those giant knights.
They were those new orcs that you hear about that, they wear disguises and stuff. That's what they were.
Oh, of course.
So Jay, how was your day 2?
Well, I mean, just like you, my day 2 was incredibly bad. Here we go. Let's talk about my day 2. So I came out of day 1, 2-1, feeling okay. And I'm going into day 2. And you and I talked about this first game the night before, because if you don't know this, if you didn't attend the LVO, or sometimes they do this at major tournaments, with the app that we use to see who we're paired with, which is called the Best Coast Pairing app, it lets you know at the end of day 1 who you're going to be playing at the beginning of day 2. You have pretty much like the whole night to look over their list and see what they're playing.
Come up with a strategy?
Come up with a strategy. And I just couldn't figure out what was going on with this list. I saw that it was Tau, and I was like, okay, I've got a pretty good idea of like what this is probably going to be. I expected 2 Riptides, Broadsides, a bunch of Fire Warriors, Dark Strider, a bunch of different things, right? Like the makeup of what you might expect of like a Tau list. There's a couple different variations, but like some things I'm used to. This was not something I was used to. And you and I discussed this. I was like, Andrew, I don't know what is going on here. All right, so I'm going through his list, and I'm like, I'm looking for
Tau Sept.
The Tau Sept. But there's only Sasea Sept. I see the first one. I'm like, oh, here's Sasea. It's for the Marker Light stratagem and stuff. Yeah. Next, well, that's also Sasea. And this last one, Sasea. What? And like, I read through multiple times. I'm like, where is the Tau Sept? Because if you don't know, the Tau Sept is bananas good, because not only does it give all of your Tau people 5-up Overwatch, which is just incredible.
Yeah, Tau Firepower. It's real scary.
But it also gives you access to arguably the best Tau stratagem, which is the +1 to wound. The Focus Fire, I believe it's what it's called.
Yes, it's called Focus Fire, yeah.
It's incredible. And against my army, it's great because it just takes out Wave Serpents, which is typically pretty hard to knock down.
Or even better, I mean, if he does it on your council, he can be wounding on 2s against your cell council.
So it's very, very good for a lot of reasons against my army, and I was prepared for that. But it was also Seiya. So I was like, what is happening here?
He also had Sky Rays?
He had 2 Sky Rays. He had a single Riptide, a Broadside unit, some Fire Warriors sprinkled without. Then he had a Crisis Suit Bomb. He also had these 2 drone flyers.
Remora stealth drones.
Yeah, and he had those 2 flyers. And it just, overall, the list like was just throwing me for a loop, because like, and not to say that it's a bad list, it was just not a list that I was familiar with.
It was so different that it just dropped you into a pool of confusion.
Yeah, I like, you remember we were talking about this that night. I was just like so like, and I knew that this player like had done well in their previous games, and I was confident that they were a solid player. So I was like, there's got to be something in here I'm not seeing. And again, like, this just goes to show like that there is more in 8th edition, because I'll give you a spoiler alert, this person did win our game, and it just goes to show that there's more in a lot of these different codexes that people give credit to, instead of just like going with like the basic build that people see all the time. Like, I really credit this player and other players on like what we like to do here sometimes on this podcast even, and try some crazy ideas. Now, as we all know, all of our ideas are always amazing.
Yes.
Right?
And I know Tau very well. I've played Tau for a long time, and even I couldn't fully understand how the list had done as well as it had. And I mean, that meant that he even knew something, like he had a leg up on me. I was like, Jay, I don't know what's going on with this.
Yeah. So went into the game a little confused, but cautious, because if I had seen what it was, I would have been way more comfortable going into a very hard, just regular Tau Sept list. This was throwing me off so much that I was like really confused out the gate. So show up at the table, and basically the big C's of this is I ended up going first, and we were on that deployment where you're in opposite quarters with, like, I think the 9 inches from the middle on both sides.
Yes.
So you're really close to each other if you deploy aggressively. He deployed aggressively on his front line because Tau, even though they have overwhelming firepower, they have fairly short range with some of their like really meaningful guns, specifically the broadsides that have a 36-inch range, and he had the missile pod broadsides, which, if you don't know, they're freaking incredible, and if you let them shoot, they will kill literally freaking anything. Like strength 7, -1 AP. I think with his, it had a thing on it that made it -2 AP.
The advanced targeting system, yeah.
With D3 damage, and he had everything deployed aggressively on the line. Riptide, broadsides right behind it, both of his sky rays right up there, and like a fire warrior unit there. And I was like, okay, here we go. The rest of his stuff, his crisis suit bomb, his Remora drones, they were all deep striking in later on. So turn 1, my big C's, I go first. I had castled up all of my things far away from the middle. I wasn't right up on the front lines. I was back waiting for the overwhelming firepower that was going to hit me turn 1, but I got to go first. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take this opportunity, move my Seer Council up, quicken them up, and then potentially shoot and kill some stuff. What I should have done is I should have Phantasmed. If you don't know what Phantasm is a 2 CP stratagem that Eldar have access to, or Craft Worlds, that allows you to move 3 units and redeploy them in your deployment zone before you begin round 1. Why this is key is because even though I can double move my Seer Council with Quicken,
Still relies on a psychic power.
Still relies on a psychic power, but also I was still really far back from, even if I had quickened them, I still wasn't super close to do enough damage. More importantly, by moving up my Farseer and moving up my Seer Council, I was too far away to doom the target I wanted to doom. I could have, auto-advanced 6 inches my Farseer to move up even farther, but if my power for Quicken didn't go off, it would have left him just sitting out there in the middle of the table. Somebody is going to kill the Doom Farseer immediately if you get the chance, so he would have been dead, so I couldn't take it. I couldn't take the risk, so I left him back, and I couldn't doom the target that I wanted to doom turn 1. This is important, because I do get my Quicken off, I power up my Seer Council, they move right up into his line, but I had to doom the Riptide. Now, I didn't want to shoot the Riptide, because there are more juicy targets, specifically the 2 Sky Rays, because the Sky Rays have Seeker Missiles. They have 6 Seeker Missiles apiece, and Seeker Missiles actually do quite a bit of damage to my Wave Serpents, and my Wave Serpents are actually the thing that were going to win me the game, because they're there to hold objectives, to take control of the board, and if they die, all of my little Dire Avengers, T3 guys, just spill out, and you can just blow them away with all of Tau's firepower.
Yeah. And if you don't know what a Seeker Missile is, it's essentially a crack missile that normally hits on a 6, but if you get a certain amount of Markolites on a target, then it hits at normal ballistic skill.
That's right. And basically what happened was I had to doom the Riptide. I didn't shoot at it at all. I fired into the Sky Ray, got some pretty bad rolls because I also didn't get guide off. I rolled 10 attacks with my Singing Spears at range. I hit with 3 of them on 3+ to hit and didn't kill it. And then in close combat, I did some smart play. I managed to wrap his Fire Warriors and actually tri-point them, or what that means is you get 3 guys around a single dude to a point where you tri-point the base, where you block the base on 3 areas, which means the Tau Fire Warrior can't actually leave combat, which means you've trapped the unit and you can't actually shoot at the Eldar, the Seer Council, which is good because my guys don't want to be shot and Tau don't like to be in close combat. So I kill nothing on my turn 1, and then what proceeds to happen after that, to make a long story short, his Sky Rays fire all of their Seeker Missiles into my Wave Serpents, blow them up over the next couple turns. All of my Dire Avengers spill out. He ends up just killing all of them through crisis suit bombs coming down, everything just shooting into them. One thing I did really well, my Solitaire went up and managed to tag the broadsides like 3 turns in a row, so the broadsides didn't shoot the entire game. He can take a relic that lets him basically ignore Overwatch, which is very key against Tau. They hate that.
Yep.
And basically he just kept touching the broadsides every turn, killing characters that were next to them and touching them so they couldn't shoot. But really this showed, for me more than anything, and why I took so much time to talk about this game, one, how interesting and dynamic you can make a list, that even if you think that it's out of the norm, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's probably really interesting and probably does something you've never seen before, which oftentimes can be more powerful than a powerful list you know how to
Well,
play.
this is the thing, is that we push forward as hard as we can in this podcast, which is it doesn't matter if it works, it only matters if it works for you.
Exactly. And this worked for him very, very well.
Yeah.
And he was a great player. He did a great job just cleaning up my army. And the thing that this really showed for my list, my Seer Council lived the entire game. They went around, they killed a bunch of stuff. They killed a Riptide. They killed one of the Sky Rays. They killed his entire Crisis Suit Bomb, but that didn't matter. This list had so many varied hard targets that could come in and do powerful things all at once that my Seer Council is really, it's everything in one basket. If the Seer Council can't take on your whole army because you have too many hard targets for me to go after, you might win.
Well, he also, if he takes out your scoring element, like the Seer Council can't kill things and also score for you. So
Exactly.
they will win the mission if they end up just coating the board enough so that you can't go in every direction.
That's right.
You're not Custodes. You can't suddenly split off into all separate units.
If only. But that was my first game of the day. Now, that was rough. I lost that game, but I was like, okay, going into my second game. I was up against demons. Demons again. I was like, okay, I know the plan against demons. I use my wave serpents, I screen them out, and then once everything comes in, I blow everything away. The plan, right? This guy was playing the typical Plague Bearer bomb, where you have like 60 Plague Bearers, basically 2 units of 30 Plague Bearers. It's impossible to shoot them because they have like -2 to hit when you cast Psychic Powers on them as well.
They have a -1 normally as long as they're 20 or more models, and the best part about that rule is that even if you diminish them to less than 20 models, they get it for the phase.
Yep.
That's so good.
Yeah. And he also had actually a Blood Crusher unit. He didn't have a Blood Litter bomb. He had like 7 or 8 Blood Crushers, like the Khorne guys riding those big, awesome metal machines.
Juggernauts.
Yeah,
Yes.
those things are awesome looking. Now, I feel really bad because they have 4 wounds, which is tough, but they're only T4, which for a unit that looks like demons riding super metal demons only being T4 just seems kind of odd.
Yeah.
And like basically my big C's for this game, because I also lost this game, which if I had played it well, I actually probably could have won. And that's not to say that this guy was a bad player. It's just my list is designed in a way to screen out demons. They come in and then you shoot them back. This guy was actually a very good player. And basically what happened is his Plague Bearers were marching up the field. He had Ahriman and a couple Thousand Sun Psychers behind them.
God, Ahriman's so good.
So good. He had his Blood Crushers, but he also had a nice big bomb of 29 Zangors with the Dark Matter Crystal that lets you redeploy them, basically fly them up the field.
Yes.
He played this unit very smart, and I didn't play against it very well at all, because basically I turtled up my army, like my plan. His turn 1, he flies his Zangors up the field, he drops them in a building in the center of the board, but they're all in cover, so I can't shoot them. It's one of these buildings that are completely blocked off, so you actually can't shoot into it, so I had no way to shoot at them. What I decided to do is I said, I know how I can kill 29 Zangors. Solitaire, you go in there and kill those 29 4 up invul, -1 to hit, Zangors. Guess what, Andrew? I killed 6.
Yeah.
And the Solitaire died. This was also after the Solitaire fought twice. He fought once, Zangors fought back, killed him. I used my stratagem to make him fight when he died, because he was Midnight Sorrow, and he killed like 1 or 2 more guys. It was not good.
I mean, it sounds bad.
That was very sad. I basically fed him a Solitaire because he didn't kill anything turn 1, and I gave him a kill on turn 1.
So then he scored. He got kill more as well.
He did, because I didn't kill anything turn
'Cause
1.
You fed him like a meat grinder.
Yeah, it was really smart. And then what I also proceeded to do, which really screwed me, is I took my Dire Avengers out of the Wave Serpent, which is normal. I bunched up a bunch of Dire Avengers behind cover, but then I left 2 units right next to the building with all the Zangors in it. And Zangors love that,
I'm confused.
because Zangors can kill a unit and then wrap another one, which means I can't shoot them, and again, they're still just out there, just killing my guys.
Wait, why were they near the building?
Because I'm an idiot. Because I let them I dropped them out so I could shoot more Plague Bearers, put them way too close to the building. To make a long story short, his Zangors came in, killed a Wave Serpent, tied up my Dire Avengers, started eating into them. My Seer Council did what they did best. They ended up going in and actually killing all the Zangors through smites and mortal wounds and attacking them in close combat. They actually have quite a bit of attacks in close combat when you get them in, because each of the Warlocks get 2 attacks. But his Blood Crushers came in, they killed another Wave Serpent, I killed them back. His Plague Bearers came up, I ended up killing them back. Basically, he pushed really hard on my lines and racked up a whole ton of the points early on. So it was up to me to push back. So I had a good plan in place. I started killing back on his army. I made another fatal mistake. I had a bunch of my Seer Council up front. I also had 2 Death Jesters in the building that he could see. Both Death Jesters were in front of the Seer Council, so he smited one to death, killed it, so he got a kill on that turn. I didn't learn from my mistake. In the second turn, I left them out there again. He smited again, killed another Death Jester the following turn, so I gave him 2 points for killing, which I didn't have to do at all. And then at the end of the game, could have tied it, or potentially won, but more likely could have tied it. I just had to leave a Farseer on an objective, and I moved him off that objective. At the end of the movement phase, we went into the psychic phase, and I realized it. He knew it by then, and we were both like, that's pretty much it. That's a game. There's no point to do the shooting phase. This is over.
So you had some kind of hemorrhage.
Yes.
That made you think that moving things towards the enemy but not doing things with those things is a good idea.
Yeah. It was good. It was a good move.
So, like, your strategy for that game was to not meat grinder, and then you just proceeded to meat grinder.
Yep. I put guys out in front for Zangors to tie up. I left Death Jesters out to get smited 2 turns in a row, and then I didn't leave a Farseer on a objective that I just spoken out loud to him and me. We both agreed that that was the thing that I was going to do to tie the game, and I moved him off the objective.
You know, it's weird that was your game too on that day, and that was the same time that I played Orcs, and we had the entire beginning of the turn talking about getting his guys closer to Gaskell, and then it didn't happen.
Huh. There must have been something going on.
Something in the air.
Something happened in old LVO town. But that was my second game. I lost that game by 1 point, which was a bummer. Could have tied it up with that Farseer and could have potentially won if I'd played a little bit smarter. So I was going into my final game. I was on 3 losses and 2 wins. And I was like, damn it, Jay, you were going to win this last freaking game so you can at least get a 3 for 3 and get just an even score, win-loss across the board.
Set it at 0?
Set it to 0. Net it out.
Set it back
Positives
to 0.
and negatives. Just right in the place I want to be, 0, right? And what do I go against in my final game? I go against a version of The List. Now, if people listen to our last episode, this was one of the armies that I was most worried about playing. The List, and this had pretty much the same makeup. Some mortar teams, I think 8 Castellan infantry units, 10-man units apiece. He had some sentinels out there to grab objectives. He had, most importantly, the Castellan, which really messed me up in my last game from the previous day.
And then the last part of it, the last hard target, is usually a variable of a number of different things. Bulgrins, some shield captains, maybe Slam Gweniuses, who knows?
Yeah, but this was a nice, big, fat old unit of Bulgrins.
Oh, yeah.
So, pretty similar to
I
a list
see.
that might have won LVO. I don't know. Give or take like a wyvern here instead of a
Stroking
sentinel.
my beard right now. Yes.
So I was like, damn it. And then I was like, what table am I on? And there were some tables in LVO that had a lot of terrain. This was not one of those tables. This was a table that had like a building in the center and like 4 rocks around the edge. And that was the table I was on. And I was like, well, damn it.
Against a shooty list.
Yeah, a very shooty list with a Castellan, a bunch of mortars, and a bajillion infantry guys, and Bulgrin. So I was like, well, ho, buddy, how are we going to get ourselves out of this one? So I looked at it turn 1, and I had this moment, this kind of like strange, weird, I don't want to call it like an epiphany, or just something clicked.
Where you saw the Matrix in that moment?
Where I saw the Matrix.
It's
now, this never happens to me. I want to be clear. I'm not very good at this game. No, I'm okay. But like, I don't often like have moments where I'm just like, wait a second.
You don't get that high strategy moment?
High strategy.
Where you see
I'm working on it.
You see the 8 moves ahead and you're like, I've got this.
I'm like, hold on. I think with exactly how everything is right now, I can win this game. Like, I don't often have that.
This was the point of your aneurysm in the previous game.
Yeah. It had all gone so deep that it hit the well in my brain that actually has some sort of variation of strategy in there.
It was reconfiguring neurons to get the proper pathways for your final game.
Like, oh my God. And I figured it out. Because basically it all came down to his deployment. He went first, shot a whole bunch of stuff. His Castellan blew up one of my Wave Serpents turn 1. A bunch of guys spilled out, hid behind a rock. He got his kill. Killed a Wave Serpent. That was his turn 1. But at the end of his...
Castellan's going to kill a Wave Serpent, I mean.
Yeah.
There's no stopping
It's going to do that, yeah. If you focus down a Wave Serpent, it dies with a Castellan. Lava. It hurts. But basically, his army had moved up to like start to like swarm the board, right? His Bulgrin moved up. They were right at the front lines, ready to just beat the crap out of my dudes in close combat, because they can. They're very nasty.
They were eyeballing that Seer Council and licking their lips.
They're like, come on in, baby. Water's fine. Because they're that mix. If you know Bulgrins, they have a bunch of guys with certain shields that give them a 2-up armor save.
Yeah, it's a slab shield.
And they have a bunch of guys that also have 4-up invul saves.
Yeah.
And then you can do the power on them that gives them a +1 to their saves, so it brings them up to a 3-up invul and a 1+. And then if you do the stratagem, they have like a 0+ or whatever armor save. It doesn't matter. It's very nasty. But basically, they were just fully powered up at the beginning of my turn 1. But I saw it. His deployment and how he moved his guys gave me the ability to win. His Castellan was on the very back line. I couldn't get to the Castellan turn 1, and I had already learned from my previous day, if you can kill the Castellan, do it. He was smart enough, put him at the very back. But he had his infantry up and his Bulgrin on the front line. But interestingly, he had spread out his infantry, so right past his Bulgrin and past like 2 lines of his infantry, there was kind of a hole in the center. And the hole had a couple like characters sprinkled around. I think Strachan was in there and a couple priests and the psychic power guys. I don't know what they are.
Primaris Psychers. 2 of them in there. And there was a hole there.
And I was like, if I can get my Seer Council into that hole, I can start tying up units and he can't shoot at my guys. I think I have a plan here. So I move my Seer Council up and I jinx his Bulgrin. This is part of the plan. The Bulgrin have to die for this plan to go off.
Well, the Bulgrin's the only real hard target that can delete the council if they get at it.
And if I take down the priests and Strachan, it removes a lot of the Catachan punchback, because Catachans are no slouches in close combat.
Strength 4, baby.
Strength 4, they can bunch up, get 1,000,000 attacked with the priest and Strachan. They can do some crazy stuff.
So they can fight twice, technically, with their orders. So.
Oh, yeah. So there was a bunch of stuff I had to do. But I move up, I jinx the Bulgrin. Interesting thing about Jinx. Jinx does not -1 to your saves. Jinx is -1 to your save roll. Why this is important? Let me explain. 1 is always a fail. That's always what it is. Even if you have a 1+ save, if you're jinxed, you still fail on a 2. Because if you roll a 2 on your die, it minuses the save of the die roll down to a 1. So you can have a 1+ save, but a 1 and a 2 will still go through and do damage. Interesting thing to learn about Jinx. It is true. Look it up. But basically, his Bulgrim were fully powered up, and I jinx them, and I unload onto them. I kill about half the unit between my Singing Spears, between all of my Shuriken shots, and a bunch of shots from my Wave Serpents, and he's down to about half a unit. Before I did this, though, I moved them right up to the line, and I quickened them in my Psychic phase, and I was able to fly my Seer Council into that center hole in his army. So I was right in the center of his army. And then, through some close combat, thank you so much, Solitaire, and your Kegarok Rose, which, if you don't know, Bulgrin are actually infantry.
They are.
Which is very interesting, because the Kegarok's Rose on the Solitaire does a flat 3 damage against infantry.
And they are 3 wounds each.
So he got some good attacks in, and killed the rest of the Bulgrin unit in close combat, and through some other means of shooting with the Seer Council, I managed to kill Strachan and tie up and kill 2 priests. Sorry, I tied up a Primaris Psyker and killed a priest, so that I killed everything that would have allowed his Catachans to fight back in the following turn to really buff them up, and kind of split his army down the middle, because I was basically right in the center of everybody, and had tied up his Primaris Psyker so he couldn't swing back, and tri-pointed him, like I mentioned before, so now he couldn't shoot at my Seer Council. This was the beginning of how I won the game. Basically, over the next few turns, at the end of his turn, my guys killed the priest he was in close combat with. Obviously, they weren't in close combat, so they could fly freely and do it, and basically, I came up with this rhythm of charging 2 units, the unit that I could kill easily, and the unit that I could wrap like a sentinel. Basically, I would charge a infantry squad after shooting a bunch of stuff, and a sentinel. I would move my guys just around the sentinel, so that I had one guy, like, basically who could swing on the sentinel, but he's not going to kill him. The rest of my guys killed the infantry squad. They consolidated into tri-point and trap the sentinel, so that the sentinel would swing back on me. It doesn't do very much, but his army, again, couldn't shoot at my Seer Council for, like, the entire game. I just kept doing this move over and over again, and eventually killed the Castellan because I got close enough to it. But that was basically the move that won me the game to take down this list. And like, I have never been able to do something even remotely close to this strategic before. And we'll call it a fluke because there's no way I should have been able to pull that off. But that's how I ended up winning my last game at LVO. And I ended up having a tied record of 3-3, zeroing out exactly where I need to be. And that's how I ended LVO. Pretty fun.
This isn't like to rub salt in the wound, but definitely going into day 2, it was not predicted between the two of us that I would be the 4-2 and you would be the 3-3. It was definitely looking the other way very hard. So, I mean, LVO is very unpredictable. And a lot of it comes down to matchup, and obviously don't move your Farseer over off an objective that he's scoring, to then
and kill a Castellan if you can,
and kill the thing that can actually damage you.
And kind of like what we're talking about is like the really key thing to remember is the game is in your control. Like as tough of a list as you go against, whether it's like a list that your army really struggles with or just a powerful list that you see in the meta, like strategy is the main thing that wins these games. Like even lists that you are confused about because you've never seen their tactics before, or even lists that are really strong. Like at the end of the day, the games that I lost, those 3 games, a lot of that was up to me, not dice rolls. It was moving off objectives, not positioning correctly, not killing a Castellan when you can. Like, it's amazing how tight the strategy is in 8th edition these days, where like you have a lot more balance to the game, where really it does come down to the strategy of the 2 players across from one another.
It rewards better generalship more than with 7th edition, which was more of a rock, paper, scissors. This is like, if you're running the same list as your opponent and your opponent is a better general, 9 times out of 10, they're going to win.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter whether you have the tools there. The better gen will win most of the time.
Yeah. So that was our trip to LVO.
Best LVO yet.
It was incredible. The players, all of our opponents were amazing. I cannot wait to go back next year and play some more games. And so that was our games at LVO. We're excited to go back next year. And that was the end of our seasons of the month. Many, many seasons. A lot of lessons learned. And, again, we don't have the Brown Library anymore, and I don't think we found another location yet. So what should we call this next segment? We're in kind of this hallway.
It's long.
The magic hallway?
I'm going to call it hallway B9.
B9. Did you find other B hallways?
Yes.
All right. Interesting. Well, here we go into our classic segment, Hall B9.
Magic.
Here we are in our classic segment, Hall B9. Magic, as you said.
Yes, you have to have that semicolon preface.
Yes, of course.
That's what it's called, yes.
And like our classic Hall B9 segments, we're going to talk about a list we're excited to see and put together for all of you, but this is a little bit unique because this isn't a single list. These are new lists for maybe Andrew and I.
2019 lists, perhaps?
Oh, yes.
Commitment lists, which Jay normally doesn't have a problem with, but maybe I do.
Andrew, you've never had a problem committing to a single list, or faction, or army build, or ever changing a list immediately after playing a single game with it.
I mean, I totally didn't make 2 years in a row lists 3 days before LVO and then go with those,
That's never happened.
Never happened.
It'll never happen again.
So, I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, so we should preface, what we're actually talking about is typically we build out a list and discuss like the makeup of it, but since we just came back from LVO and it's a brand new season, we actually want to talk about the lists and new armies we actually plan to take into this new season and really commit to that are different from our previous ones.
So this isn't going to be like a full point for point. This is going to be more of a tease.
A little bit more of a tease. We'll give some more details on how the lists are doing down the road as we build it out, because there's going to be a lot of building involved.
Trial and error. It's the best way to learn how you have bad ideas.
And our lists will be perfect immediately, so I don't think we're ever going to need to change them or tweak them.
I am not going to commit to that statement one bit.
No, we're going to tweak the crap out of them. But let's talk about, from a high level, what our new armies are and what our new lists are looking like. Andrew, do you want to kick it off?
So, I mean, I'm partially going back to, as we call, the mistress.
Oh, yes.
My first...
You have many mistresses, let's be clear.
This is the first real love, though. The army that got me into Warhammer 40k, which is Tyranids. Now, Tyranids is just one part of it. Technically, you can say the other part is also sort of Tyranids, but...
This doesn't have to do with a recent release, does it?
No, of course not.
Huh, okay. I feel like there was a recent release that had something to do with
Nope.
Tyranids.
Nope, you're crazy.
Assassins? No.
No.
That was a pretty good release, though.
It was a good release. But can't wait. Can't wait to try new Everest.
But for some reason, Assassins is ringing...
It's a part of it.
Sneakiness. There's something there, I swear.
All right, so I'm going to get into it. He's totally wrong. Nothing to do with it. I'm playing Necrons. No, I'm just kidding.
My God.
But no, so I am playing Tyranids, and with the Tyranids, I'm bringing forth Gene Stealer Cult.
Gene Stealer Cult, baby!
Now, I did actually play Gene Stealer Cult previously with regards to, when they were first released in their 8th edition index. I've loved the concept of Gene Stealer Cults for a long time. I like this idea of these guys that falsely believe they're going to be elevated to some higher level.
Our gods are here. Oh God, they're eating us.
Yes. So
it really is such an ironic, sad, sarcastic story. Like, just very dark.
Yeah, there's a deep irony there. Now, you can argue that some say they have been elevated because they've become part of the hive mind.
Right.
But
you, a person who has been taken over by the hive mind, would say something like that.
All hail the four-armed
Oh,
emperor, my
boy.
friend. I mean... But, so I will be running, probably as it stands currently, a single Tyranid battalion, and then 2 Gene Stealer Cult battalions. So I'm going trip battalion, Jay.
Holy cannoli.
So I will be taking what, in my opinion, is the most fun cult from a fluff perspective and a rules perspective, which is the Twisted Helix cult.
Now, what is their cult tactics or their special ability?
It's +1 strength.
That's pretty good on Strength 4 models.
Yes, turns out Strength 5 Auto Acolytes is real cool.
Now, they come in small units, right? Only 5 guys?
5 to 20.
You wouldn't take them in 20, would you?
Maybe.
My
We'll see.
goodness.
We'll see going forward. Currently, my largest unit is a unit of 15. So not full 20 yet.
It's a lot of guys.
May change.
A lot of Strength 5.
And then I also, within that, I have a full 10-man unit of Aberrants. Now, I was not fully comprehending why the new Aberrants with their rules combined with the Vigilus Anointed Throng detachment was so good. But now having marinated with the book a bit and seeing the capabilities of what that unit can do, it is downright silly.
It is very powerful.
It is bonkers nuts. It is... Some might say insane. The resilience of that unit and its possible damage output, and the fact that it can have basically a 6 to 0 inch charge. It's kind of nuts.
It's very good.
It's kind of silly. I will be taking, like I said, the full 10-man unit. I will be taking an Abominant because the Abominant is hilarious.
Well, he wants you to stop. And by stop, he means hit you with a giant stop sign over and over again.
No, those are the sergeants.
Oh, that's
within
right.
the Aberrant unit.
The Abominant is carrying that giant hammer, right?
It's a super sledgehammer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So he's got a little buddy with him, his little mindworm familiar. So I will definitely be running that. There's a lot of characters. So if I'm playing in the ITC, which I will be, and if my opponent doesn't take Headhunter, they're out of their freaking mind. Headhunter is a secondary objective where you get a point for every character you kill, and I'm going to have, like a low ball, maybe 8 to 10 characters.
That's a lot of characters.
Well,
and those characters don't have small amount of wounds, do they?
I mean, most of them do.
Yeah.
I have 2 characters, 3 characters currently that are 9 or more, but the rest are less.
Well, they're flying in the sky.
Well, there's
murdering things.
There's one angry man, the angriest beetle in the galaxy, who will always be in my nid list.
Good old One Eye.
Old One Eye,
the best.
He's so fun. And then the rest of my army, I will have a Patriarch, I will have a Magus, I will have a Primus. I will be using the stratagem that if you have all 3, you get to give them all a Warlord trait, which is freaking amazing.
Very nice.
Like I said, I'll have an Abominant. I will have a Sanctus, which is their assassin. Huh, that's what you were saying with assassins before.
That was what I was thinking. I knew it. Now, I've seen his model. He's got a knife, right? That's all he's got, right?
Totally not a sniper rifle. He totally has a sniper rifle.
Which is hilarious, because it's like the best thing he has, and it's
hidden. It's under the cloak, Jay.
It's very surprising. Like, I feel like you'd see that model on the table, you'd be like, oh, he's a close combat guy. No. He will murder you.
Now, here's the thing, is that there is a way to build him for combat that actually does make him very mean.
But
I like the sniper rifle version.
Is it because it's very good?
It's because his sniper rifle causes auto perils on any psyker that he wounds.
Now, let me think for a second. Is there a faction in this game that has a lot of low wound count psyker models that's very powerful and prevalent in the game? Some might say very strong.
You might say there's actually more than one. But, I mean, Eldari, Imperial Guard,
right,
and Demons.
Yep. But
all have these things.
The most crippling will probably be taking down those Farseers.
Yeah, it's very nice, especially because there's a relic sniper rifle that adds 2 to wound rolls, which means he's wounding basically any T4 or less model on 2s in the game.
Pretty good. Now, he can only shoot once a turn, though, correct?
Well, I mean, you can normally, but when you set him up or you bring him in from reserves, he can shoot twice.
What? Now, that's obviously going to cost... I know what you're talking about. Perfect ambush,
yes.
Right? Yeah. It costs like 3 CP, right? It's pretty expensive for one guy.
It's 0 for him.
Ew.
Yes.
That crazy son of a bitch.
Yeah, so, and it can apply the first turn when you bring him in if you use the Cult Ambush ability instead of the, it came from, well, no, that's actually stratagem. The Underground, sorry. If you don't put him underground, if you just use a Cult Ambush.
One of those little blips?
With little blipsies. So, with the recent FAQ release, mentioning that the blip placement with Cult Ambush doesn't take up tactical reserves.
Yeah, so you can have freaking nothing on the board at the beginning of the game. Like, you can have half your army underground and the other half are just freaking blips.
They're waiting to see where your stuff goes.
Yeah.
So then you can put...
So good.
And you can put an extra 3 blips down with the stratagem, which means that you basically put 4 blips down for your Sanctus on the 4 places that are the best vantage points for wherever they put their characters, and then you're like, oh, they're there while he's here, and he's got a super sniper rifle, and he cold ambushes for 0 CP.
Shooting twice and murdering everybody.
Yeah.
God, it's so good.
So I'm definitely going to be using that, and then, of course, I will have at least one of the trademark new boogeyman of the room, which is the Kellermorph, the gunslinger of Genestealer Cult, which... his output is just silly.
Arguably one of the coolest models ever made.
It's definitely an amazing model. It's a literal desperado, a 3-armed desperado. He's even got the Clint Eastwood cloak going on. I can't remember what those pullovers are called, but it's like a poncho, but sort of not.
I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, I mean, it's an amazing model. His rules are unbelievably good, and I will... enjoy every second using him.
Oh, yes.
And then I'll have a Clamavis, which is, again, all these fancy names for these characters. The Clamavis...
Of course, the Clamavis.
The Clamavis. He gives +1 to charge for when things arrive from reserves, either from Cult Ambush or from Underground, to units within the same cult and within a certain range of him. So that's, again, applying to things like the Aberrants, giving them another +1.
Oh, like they need it.
Which the Anointed Throng, as long as you make the Abominant a field commander, then he also gives them a +1. So, I mean, so there's a +2 there.
Pretty good.
And then, if depending on if I take them as Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor or not, that could give him another +1. So that'd be a +3. So, I mean...
We got a lot of pluses, it sounds like.
Lots of pluses. Lots of pluses.
Man, we got pluses for days back here. They are going hot.
Hot pluses. And, I mean, I will not actually be taking the Nexus, or Nexos, depending on how you say it, which is the guy that gets you CP back, because I'm just deciding to go Triple Battalion.
I mean, Triple Battalion, you just have so much CP.
Just swim in CP and just never think about having to regen it and just use it to my heart's content. Ugh. And I will love it to death.
Triple Battalion, what a warm blanket.
I mean, it's just nice. I will have anywhere between 18 and 21 CP.
That's like a new world for you.
It's going to be amazing comparatively to my normal 9 to 6 that I have with most of my armies. Yeah. Yep. I'll be able to actually use stratagems. It's going to be strange.
You're going to have so many troops. Can you believe it?
And then all of my troops are actually going to be, other than my Tyranid battalion, which will just be Rippers, my normal troops will be Acolytes, all Acolytes. I love Acolyte hybrids. I love the idea of them. I love that they're combat-y and they're cheap now. They got a 4-point drop, which was like...
So cheap.
Hell yeah.
And you can give them all flamers.
They also, 1 point for a hand flamer, and they all can take
now,
one.
those are just D3 shots, right?
Nope, D6.
Ugh.
They're only strength 3, but it's D6 auto hits.
Only strength 3.
Only strength 3.
When you can just get a unit of 20. 20 D6.
I'll be using 15 to start. And, you can, ironically enough, use a stratagem because it's only a 6-inch range. But then you use a stratagem that they can't charge, but you can place them 3 inches away.
And you can shoot normally.
And you can shoot. But you can also, if you want to, use a perfect ambush after you place them 3 inches away, shoot once for free, and then have another shooting phase.
Oh, my God.
So you can shoot, technically, with my 15-man unit, 30 D6 flamers.
Ugh.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
That screen is just going to light up on fire.
So I have, with my combination of NIDS, because the NIDS is really, ironically, giving me more of a shooting platform, because in general, I don't think cult shooting is all that great, other than the flamers, but like in anything resembling range.
You're telling me Gene Stealer Cult wants to get all stabby instead of shooty?
A little bit. Besides the flamer guys, the Sanctus, and the Kellermorph, all the rest of them want to smack stuff.
Except for the incredible shooting potential they have, they mostly want to stab you, and they do it pretty well.
And then, I'm surprised this didn't get FAQ'd, but there is a psychic power that can get kind of out of hand.
It didn't, and we were all very surprised by that.
Can get kind of out of hand, and they
can one-shot like a freaking knight, if you get lucky enough.
Didn't change it, which was very surprising.
Like, are we missing something? It just seems crazy. You can just
don't
kill most
know.
things. Odd.
Very strange.
Oh, well, hey, good for them.
But yeah, so I can't wait. That's as far as I'll go, as deep as I'll go. I have tactics that I'm going to employ. It's a really 1, 2, 3 punch, so we'll see. I've got 3 arms going on, so you got to get that third punch.
I see what's going on there. I see what you did.
But it'll be a very fun list. I have about 140 points still left to play with, and maybe some finagling here or there if I drop one of my flyrants or something, and then
A good finagle.
a little finagling.
It's always nice.
Gotta get that finagling going.
Man, there is nothing like having like 100 or 200 points left in a list and just being like, what am I going to do with you? Not enough for like a really big, strong unit, but do I want to put like just a couple more guys here? Damn it.
Well, see, the thing is, too, is that with the Gene Stealer Cult group, it allows me to actually really maneuver things, like add some more characters that do bonuses. Like I could throw
They have some good characters, you say?
Some good characters. I could, if I wanted to, throw in a Biophagus in there. And
man, all these new names.
Yeah, all these new names.
It's going to be real hard when you get to the table. It's like, what is that? You're like, hold on a second. Let me bring out my Latin, like, freaking textbook here.
Bio guy, clam dude. Clam dude.
Watch out for that clam guy.
Shooter man, sniper guy.
Please, everybody refer to these characters only by that terminology. Shooter guy, clam dude.
But
amazing.
I only have the one aberrant unit, and the Biophagus essentially buffs an aberrants. And if I take the little familiar with him, he can do like a double buff on them, which is pretty cool. And it can make them go from already crazy to just downright stupid. And I kind of maybe want to do it.
Hey, mad scientist, man. It's what he's all about.
Maybe not the most competitive option, but when has that ever stopped me? So
never.
Now, here comes the real bit, though. So Jay and I are doing something new. Well, more new for Jay to this degree. Not so new for me. We're deciding to do fully converted armies for 2019. And
mostly converted for me, but fully converted for you.
I mean, it's still mostly converted. I'm still using a lot of the stock miniatures. That's a point of conversions. I'm not doing a stand-in army. I'm doing a converted army. Jay is not doing a stand-in army. He's doing a converted army. But we want to do really cool themed-based armies. And for me, there's been one. It's the elephant or the chicken in the room, you could say, that's been there for a long time.
That big-ass chicken.
I am one of the biggest fans of one of the most neglected races in 40K, and that is Kroot. I love Kroot. I love them so much. I love their model scheme, and I am doing a full Kroot Gene Stealer / Tyranid army.
And it works so well!
Yes, I mean, with their sneakiness and their combat, their so-so shooting, which is very much in line.
Right.
Their assassinations, I can't wait to model a Kroot Desperado as my Kellermorph. It's going to be great.
Now, who's going to be Stabums and who's going to be Quillboy?
I mean...
Because some people who do not listen to Wrath and
Yeah.
Story have no idea what we're talking about.
No.
But check out Wrath and Story. It's good.
But yeah, so that's the army I'm planning for 2019. It's going to take a little while for it to get off the ground, but I am very excited to play it. It has all the tricks that I like, and I actually like what they did with the FAQ with regards to their Vect stratagem.
Yeah, once a game now.
But didn't increase its cost, kept it at 3 CP, but just made it a once per game ability, which actually, once again, puts the stress back on the general who has the stratagem and not on the opponent.
Yep.
Because you only get to do it once, and it's like,
Hey, it's
when
good enough
do I
to
use
stop
it?
one Vect that's going to be Vected against you.
I mean, every time I play against Drukhari, or at least a Blackheart detachment, I'm just going to be waiting to Vect. I mean,
that Vect.
Every game, I'm just going to be like,
And I know it's not called Vect for their stratagem, but come on, it's way easier to say than for
a plan
generations in the making.
A plan generations in the making.
Yeah, whatever that.
The plan. We'll just call it the plan.
The plan.
The plan.
Your Vect has been planned. What?
Yes. So Jay, new army 2019, not Eldari?
What? Not the Space Cablers? Now, this has been tough.
For the first time in 4 years?
I have been playing Eldar forever. I have dabbled in a couple other armies, but not to this extent.
No, I mean, like, you've been playing pretty much competitively just Eldari for 4 years?
Oh, yeah.
At least?
I think you're right. I think it is 4 years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
Maybe longer.
But I mean, like, I have pretty much the entire Eldar line at this point. I mean, geez, we talked about in the last episode, I literally have, like, a whole bunch of support
you have
weapons.
a problem.
Yeah, I have them all now, except for all the Phoenix Lords. I don't think I have the Baharoth guy, the guy who flies or whatever.
Do you have
I don't think
Jane
anybody
Zar?
owns him.
I don't think you have Jane Zar either.
I might not have Jane Zar, but nobody owns Baharoth, the Swooping Hawk guy. I don't know who has used him. Maybe somebody has. Let us know if you have. Maybe he's great, and I don't know. But basically, not to bury the lead any further, the army that I'm going to be playing in 2019 is Necrons.
Yes.
I've talked about this now. This isn't a surprise to some. In previous episodes, I have mentioned I'm going to try Necrons, but I'm really going all in on this. I want to make a competitive Necron army. Now, it's not to say that I've figured out the secret sauce and I've figured out how Necrons work and will be the top army ever.
No, you've just caught my disease of
yes,
trying to play what's considered an underdog army and force it to make it the most competitive thing ever.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, and I shall. I shall figure it out.
You shall crush your enemies.
Look literally into the robot matrix and see the truth of it. Now, look.
Oh, is that the reason why you saw the Matrix once and now
That's
you're
what
like
it was.
robots?
See, that's what happened. The zeros and ones started flowing through, and I was like, Necrons, it's
you
the
tapped
sign.
into that Cadian pylon that's Necron pylon, and you saw the green ones and zeros.
The necrodermis is almost completely over my entire body. Now, it is itchy, but it's almost done.
I feel like we should call the
No, it's fine. I mean, it stings a lot, but it's okay, right? I don't have to breathe or sleep or anything anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, it's good. I'm pretty sure this is necrodermis. That one Harlequin said it was. He was laughing when he said it, but they laugh all the time. They're clowns. Anyways, so Necrons, I'm actually right now, as the existing army sits today. First, I want to talk about kind of the makeup of the army. Right now, I just am looking at 2 different detachments. One is a battalion. One is a Vanguard? No. What's the fast one? Outrider, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, so one's an Outrider and one's a battalion. The Outrider detachment that I'm looking at right now is just filled, top to bottom, with maybe one of my favorite Necron units. And I was like, I could do one of these units.
I loved this conversation we had.
Or I could do 3 of these units. I am running 27 Tomb Blades, baby! Because I think they're a really freaking good unit.
Wait, jet bikes?
Wait, are you saying I'm... Oh my god, am I still playing my Eldari bikelets? Yes, maybe there's some element of that still there. Look,
There's a degree of familiarity that you have to hold to.
This list has high mobility, and a lot of it flies.
And mass shooting.
And mass shooting. Yeah, I guess it's kind of similar to this I was just playing. But it's robots. It's different, I swear.
But no psychic power.
But no psychic powers. That's true. There are no psychic powers. Very different. And actually, I am excited about that because as fun as the Seer Council list is, the Clown Council list, the Seer Council itself takes a lot of psychic powers to power up, and some of those go wrong. Some of those dice rolls go one way or the other. That very expensive 670 point unit can be dead or not do what it needs to do and just bleh.
Yeah, I mean, when it doesn't perform to its utmost and it's a literal Death Star unit, it's, in your case, it was a third of your army.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not be your cup of tea.
So instead, I'm playing with a list that has no psychic powers and a lot of guns and a lot of redundancy.
You do like gun murder.
The Outrider detachment is the Mefrit dynasty is what I'm looking at right now. It's the one where if you're in half range, you add 1 to your AP value. So all of my 27 Tomb Blades have Tesla carbines, which went down in the recent chapter approved.
24 inches Assault 2.
And 24-inch Assault 2 per gun. Each Tomb Blade has 2 Tesla carbines.
4 shots.
Similar to, was there another bike unit that I ran that had 4 shots per guy?
No,
I can't
definitely not.
remember. I feel
Definitely
like this is familiar. It doesn't matter.
And exploding 6s, too.
That's the coolest part. Each of these Tesla shots are Strength 5, the magic number that we love so much. Can wound pretty much anything on 5.
You'd say an upgrade to maybe a previous shooting unit that you had.
Well, maybe. There was a previous... Was it only Strength 4? This is also familiar. But yeah, what's awesome is on 6s, if you don't know, with Tesla carbines, they explode. So each shot of a dice roll of a hit of a 6 turns into 3 hits.
Yes.
Not 2 additional shots, just 3 automatic hits. Which means, on average... A 9-man Tomb Blade unit, which is as big as it can get. If it could get bigger, I'd put more guys in it. Which basically means that unit of 9 gets 36 shots. And when you work out the math, and with the exploding 6s, they hit 36 times. Which is pretty nice. Reliance. Strength 5, and at half range, 12 inches, -1 AP?
Very good.
That's very good.
Lots of anti-infantry.
And against things, even with 2-up saves, enough shots, which, as we all know... With 3 units of these guys that each put out on average 36 hits, not shots, hits. It's a lot of hits and strength 5 to wounds at -1 AP.
You might say that infantry lines would quake in their boots when they see, especially when it's a unit that also moves 14 inches.
Also, they do, moves 14 inches with 24-inch range guns, not rapid fire, assault.
Which means they can advance and still fire as well.
If I needed to, but otherwise they have a 38-inch threat radius, and I'm always going to start them on the line because you can't hide that many Tomb Blades, and they're pretty durable. They're T5. They have a native -1 to hit, which is incredible.
3+ save.
3+ save, 2 wounds a pop. They are durable.
Oh, and don't forget about the reanimation, which when it does trigger...
It can be really annoying. And that's kind of the thing with this list. I was trying to figure out how can I make the most out of what makes Necrons unique. And keep some jet bike stuff in there because I love that stuff. And have high mobility because I also enjoy that as well. But it's like, look, reanimation protocols is like the Necron thing. So how can you force this to really be an added value to your army?
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. Is it everything's multi-wound for the most part?
Everything's multi-wound and
Hard to
very
kill?
durable. Because basically what it does is, with Cryptex, if you don't know, which are kind of characters in the Necron army, Cryptex, when they're nearby other Necron units, they have this aura ability that, as long as they're within 3 inches of a Necron unit, and they're characters, so you can't shoot them unless somebody has a crazy, annoying sniper rifle guy who can shoot twice, you son of a bitch. Basically, they add 1 to reanimation rolls, which means reanimation rolls are at the top of a turn. You roll as many dice for guys that have died in the unit. Now, if they ran away, you can't roll for it. But as long as the guys died in the
actual
previous turn,
casualties, yeah.
Yep. You roll a die for each thing that died, and on a 5+, it comes back full health. Like if it had 3 wounds, 2 wounds, no matter what.
Like nothing happened.
Full health, like nothing happens. Like back to normal. Which means if you kill a Tomb Blade unit down to 1 guy,
roll 8 dice.
Roll 8 dice. That means with the +1 on reanimation on a 4+,
from the Cryptek,
I'm probably going to get 4 back. Statistically, that's pretty good. And what that does is not only does that obviously add more durability to an already durable army, because again, they're 3+ armor saves, T5, -1 to hit. Like, it's pretty good. 2 wounds a pop.
You have to really focus them down.
It really forces the opponent to have that stressful moment of, God, do I have to keep shooting at this damn Tomb Blade unit?
Well, and the worst is the worst feeling that you can ever get playing against Necrons. Now, most of my experiences against going against destroyers and stuff like that, And the worst possible feeling you can have is getting it down to one guy.
And they're just still alive.
And there's no way you can get rid of that one guy. And you're like, well, maybe, morale. And then if they need to, maybe not for destroyers, to just 2 CP and like, you're just like,
and that 2 CP is so worth it with reanimation protocols.
But you've also found a way around it.
Yes. There's also, if you're playing Drakari and they evict, you can take the Warlord trait called Immortal Pride, where anybody within 6 inches of the Warlord automatically passes morale tests, and for fun also gets a Deny the Witch every turn, just for fun.
Yes.
So there's some things you can take, and in ITC, you can pick your Warlord trait at the beginning of a game, so depending on who I'm playing, I can pick appropriately. But otherwise, like, look, I'm not saying that I've uncovered the secret sauce of Necrons. I would never say that. I'm just starting out with the army, so it's going to go through a lot of iterations, and
what's good for you, it's all that matters.
Exactly. So I really want to dig in on this army a lot more. The base right now is a whole crap ton of Tomb Blades. There's a 6-man destroyer unit in there, of course, with Veil of Darkness, extermination protocols, that 1 CP strat that lets them reroll hits and wounds is amazing. And the other fun thing, so that's my Mephrit group. That's a Cryptek, a bunch of Tomb Blades, a destroyer unit.
Cryptek with a Canoptic Cloak to keep up with them.
And 2 fun units that people might be surprised about that actually got a drop in recent chapter approved.
One of my favorite units in Necrons.
And I love them as well. I actually had a unit from a while ago that I built a long time ago because I love how they look, and I love their style.
It was 5th edition.
And they had different rules then. They changed, but they recently got a point drop, and they do some really interesting things. 2 units of 10 death marks. Now, these are the sniper guys.
The hunters from hyperspace.
And it's like, yeah, hunters from hyperspace. They've got their own spin-off TV series somewhere. But you might be like, death marks? Who takes death marks? What? Now, again, I haven't saying that I figured out Necrons. This might be a terrible choice. But what's interesting about death marks is not only with Mephrit, when they drop in, they can be at half range because they're 24-inch range rapid fire, which means when you deep strike them, they get an automatic deep strike. You don't have to spend CP on them. So you can put them up in deep strike, and they can drop in, so they're great for harassing backlines. That's 20 shots from each 10-man unit, -1 AP, strength 4, that can target characters.
Yep.
Pretty good. But the real cool thing that I'm willing to try out is, especially with Genestealer Cult, especially with Orcs, especially with demons, and a lot of these armies that have this redeploy where they're deep striking units and charging you in, or they're jumping Orc boys across the field to shoot you and charge you in the face. The Hunter from Hyperspace, these badass death marks, have this really cool thing. I believe it's called Extermination Interception or something like that. I actually forget the name of the ability, but what it lets you do is when a unit deploys on the battlefield, now not deep strikes or set up, as long as
arrives from reinforcements.
Basically, as long as it's not a disembark from a vehicle or set up in deployment, when you jump a group of Orc boys or you deep strike, we keep saying deep strike, but set up a bunch of demons that are going to charge you with 3d6, or Genestealer Cult guys pop up, these guys can immediately deep strike and land within 12 inches of that unit and can shoot them.
Yep.
This is very strong against Orcs, Genestealer Cult, demons, things that are very good at just crushing you and wrapping you in close combat, but have basically nothing in terms of saves, and you can just blow off most of the unit before they even get a chance to charge.
Yeah, because it's essentially the way that this functions is it's acting as a deterrent for the armies that do what we call the step reinforcements, which is like how most players are playing Orcs right now. It's a turn 1, one thing, a turn 2, another thing, a turn 3, another thing. Like, it's that step system where it's not doing a ton of overwhelming all at once, but then demons, even with multiple bombs, you have 2 units of death marks, which means
I can go after 2 separate ones.
You can drop one unit and then just drop the other unit and just be like, well, those some tasty looking bloodletters right
Yeah.
there.
And because they can do it within 12 inches, if you're dropping within 9 of, let's say, a unit of Tomb Blades you're going to charge, I can just drop them behind the Tomb Blades so you can't charge them, shoot the unit, and then if you charge the Tomb Blades with whatever's left, they get exploding 6s when they hit.
With Overwatch.
In Overwatch. So
And they fly, so you can't
trap
keep them in combat.
Again, there's some techniques here I'm trying to work out, but that's kind of the beginnings of the army. The other detachment I'm working on, which is a battalion, not as exciting, but where the conversion comes into place is I actually really love those Night Haunt looking guys.
The new Night Haunt models from Age of Sigmar are very cool.
They're very cool, and I've really liked somebody. I think it was like a little bit over a year ago. I saw this online pop up somewhere. I didn't come up with this, but I saw this online, and I was like, I kind of want to take this like as far as possible and somebody created an immortal, or even just like a
Praetorian or
Necron
something.
warrior,
Yeah.
that had a Nighthaunt body with like the ghostly cloak and had a like gauze blaster or something hanging underneath it. So it looked like
And a Necron head.
Necron head. It looked like a Necron with like a ghost body. I was like, that looks incredible. So my battalion detachment thematically is going to be, if the one is Mefrit, this is going to be a Novoke detachment. And I'm basically playing it out theme-wise, that these are like this crazy, because if you don't know, Novoke are like the blood crazy, maybe not crazy, but like blood warrior Necron dynasty that are incredibly good at close combat. Their ability allows them to reroll all hits in close combat. They have a lot of like close combat-y relics and abilities that they can get.
Yes.
And basically, I'm going to make them all look like scary ghosts. And very excited because I have a Destroyer Lord in there that you can give him a Blood Scythe. He can get like D3 extra attacks. He goes crazy in close combat. It's a ton of fun.
He loves fighting stuff.
Yeah, so that's my Necron list I'm starting to build out now. I'm looking forward to testing it in the near future. Again, not saying I figured out something that nobody else has already talked about or figured out before, but just really excited to dig into a new faction, a new army for 2019, and Andrew and I are just going to take these armies to task and see what we can do.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, that was episode 56 of Roll to Seize. Now, I know we mentioned last month that we were coming out with a Patreon and that it would definitely be out this month. It is not ready yet. We did get lost again in the Black Library.
We are trying to assemble the best content we can for you guys.
Exactly.
It took a little extra time.
It did, but we think we've landed on some pretty sweet stuff. So keep a lookout in this next coming month. We promise we'll have some pretty exciting stuff to share. So, everybody, thank you for joining us. We post a new episode of this segment every last Wednesday of the month, with episodes of Wrath and Story, another podcast we love to do, airing bi-weekly on Mondays. And if you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts, like Friday Night Quests, our hilarious D&D podcast, definitely check it out. It's really fun. Head over to partialarc.com. Also, you can email us any questions at rolltoseize@gmail.com, and you can always follow us on Twitter and Instagram for tournament and model picks when we remember to post them, at Partial Arc. Thanks for listening, and see you next month!
Goodbye!